Today on Review This Thing, we're going to review this thing, the Thermacell Mosquito Repellent. Before we do that though, help us out big time. Please click that subscribe button and that notification bell. If you have a Thermacell and you want to share your experience, please comment below. Or if you have any other questions, we would love to see if we can help you answer those. Also, check back here. Every week we have a brand new review, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of those. All right, now that we've covered that, let's go ahead and talk about the Thermacell Personal Mosquito Repellent. You know the drill. On Review This Thing, we're going to cover the facts. The first part is fit. The main thing I want to talk about with fit first is just the size of the Thermacell. It's about 7.8 inches long, I think they say, and less than 3 inches wide at the widest point. I have a holster I'll show you here in a second. So with the holster, extra canisters, it weighs right at 9 ounces. So barely just over half a pound, and that's with all that stuff. Without it, it's definitely under a half a pound. I have carried this around in my hunting pack for several years and never felt like it was taking up extra room that I needed. I actually carried it in my turkey vest this year just in case, and again, never took up too much room, never felt like it was in the way. And especially because of how lightweight it is, you really don't even notice that you have it. The next thing I want to talk about is the holster. Now this is an old holster. They don't have this exact kind anymore, but they do have one available. I think the holster is great for a couple of different reasons. One, if you're doing a prolonged activity, like you're going to be sitting outside for a while, you're going hunting, fishing, something like that, the holster not only gives you a way to strap it on to maybe your stand or something, but also gives you places to store things. So this one, you can have an extra fuel canister and then extra of the repellent pads. Each repellent pad is said to last about 4 hours and each fuel canister about 12 hours. So I mentioned that now to just say with fit, you can rest assured that it's probably not going to run out on you while you're doing whatever activity you're doing, because in theory you can get 24 hours of use out of 2 canisters and then put enough pads in there to get 24 hours use as well. That way, if you should run out in the middle of your activity, you're not having to cut your trip short, quit fishing, quit hunting, whatever it is you're doing. Instead, you just replace it and you're ready to go. So what kind of score can we give fit? As I mentioned, the size is excellent. It does everything it needs to in this compact size. It's not heavy at all. And if you have a holster where you can store some extra things, then it's going to fit your needs. It's going to be usable all day long. So because of that, I'm going to give fit a 5 out of 5. Now is the Thermacell as advertised. There are a couple things Thermacell advertises. The absolute number one thing is that it creates a 15-foot, dome of protection from mosquitoes. Now, what I really wanted to do was get some footage of like a swarm of mosquitoes and then set this thing down in it and just watch them go away. I did not do that, mainly because I don't like mosquitoes enough to find a swarm of them to get myself in the middle of. But I can tell you from my own experience that these things actually work great. I don't know, I can't really say, is it a 15-foot dome of protection? But I do know that whenever I have been using it in the deer stand and just sit it on the bottom of the stand, that it absolutely keeps the mosquitoes away. I remember one of the first times I used it was early bow season, and I had placed it on the bottom of the stand, and I was like, there's really not that many mosquitoes. I don't really need it. So I reached down and turned it off. And within just a very few minutes, I learned very quickly that in fact it was working quite well. And the mosquitoes were all over me again. And what you don't want to do is, when you have deer coming in, you don't want to be smacking mosquitoes away. So I turned it back on. The Thermacell is also advertised to be scent-free. I think it does have a tiny smell, but it isn't anything that I've ever had scare deer off. Again, used it plenty of times and never had a deer spook because of it. They do have earth scent refills that you can buy instead of just the plain ones, if that's something you're concerned about. And we talked about this a little bit in fit, but it's advertised for the canisters to run for 12 hours and for the pads to run for 4 hours. I've never run it out, just let it run for 12 hours to see if it would last that long. But I will tell you that I've never felt like it ran out too quickly. Now, however many hours that is, I'm not 100% sure, but it isn't something where I feel like I'm having to refill it all the time. So, is the Thermacell as advertised? Does it repel mosquitoes, and is it scent-free? Again, I can't give you specifics about measurements of safety zone and all that stuff, but I can tell you that my experience is that these do an excellent job of keeping the mosquitoes away. So, because of that, I'm going to have to give, as advertised, a 5 out of 5. Now on to construction and durability. So I think the Thermacell is actually a pretty nifty design. You just screw that fuel canister right in there, and then you pop that back on. And then the neat thing about that is then there's a gauge that you can see on the back, so you can tell if it's running low or not. And then there's an ignition switch. You just turn the power on. And then here's the ignition switch. You just push it. Very similar to like a gas grill or something like that. And the way you can tell that it's working is it starts to give you a little orange or blue glow. Whenever you ignite it, the heat in that element just heats up that pad, and that heat activates the repellent to keep the mosquitoes away. It's that simple. It does it in this compact size with no batteries, no cords, none of that. So I think it's a pretty cool design. With construction, as I mentioned before, the sizing is actually perfect. It's handheld size, it's easy to hold, easy to put in your pack and carry around and then get out whenever you need it. The holster comes with an attachable strap on it. The newer designs, as I mentioned, this one's older, but the newer designs have a couple of slits where you can buy accessories. There's one that screws into a tree, one that you can just get a clamp and clamp on. So the newer ones do have some additional features that are actually a little bit cooler than this one. And links to all that stuff is below too. Now in terms of durability, as I mentioned, I've carried this thing around a ton, thrown it in a pack, taken it out, set it on the ground. And my husband, he said he actually dropped his out of his stand, probably 15, 20 feet up, and it broke the bottom of it, like cracked it, but he was able to just stick it right back on and keep it in his holster, and it's running fine, working just great. The igniter still works, which I think is pretty impressive for something that is likely every bit of like 7 to 10 years old, if I'm guessing. It's plastic, so it's lightweight, but still, thus far, it's done really well. And I have managed to not even break the little grid, which I count a victory. So overall, I think construction's great, durability is great, and there are a couple of little design issues that they already fixed in the new one, like I said, with that mount. So as far as construction and durability, I really have no negatives to say. If you've had issues with yours, comment below so people are aware of those, but so far, things have gone great for us. So because of that, I'm gonna have to give construction and durability a 5 out of 5. Now on to testimonials and reviews. So I just went straight to Amazon to look for reviews. There are over 12,000 and the average score is 4.5 out of 5. Like we always do, I want you to know what people really didn't like about it. So what were the 1 and 2 scores? The first thing, several people mentioned that there's wooden light. I'm sure they make so many of these, there's got to be a dud here and there, but again, I think we have 4 and all of them light very, very well. There are a few people who said it didn't repel the mosquitoes at all. They actually saw mosquitoes landing on it. I'm sure a few get through from time to time, but overall, we've been very pleased and they definitely keep them away. And then finally, there were a few people that mentioned that the active ingredient in the repellent is toxic. I did some research just so you would be fully aware of what the deal is there. According to the New Jersey Department of Health Hazardous Substance Fact Sheet, the active ingredient in these can be an irritant to the lungs, nose, and eyes if inhaled. And it mentions not leaving it near uncovered food, and that it's toxic to cats, bees, and fish. But then I also did a little more research and found in the Journal of Environmental Monitoring, they did a study where they released that chemical, I'm not gonna say it because I can't pronounce it, but the chemical into one room that was closed and one room that was open for 14 hours a day. The room that was closed, they found it deposited all over the place. The room that was open, there was still traces, but it wasn't as strong. So I'm just gonna let you decide for yourself, when you have this outside, a few feet away from you in a stand, is it something that you need to worry about? I'll let you decide. So like we always do, what's the score for testimonials and reviews? We're gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5. Okay, while you're here, should you buy this thing? Now before we move on, let's just remove the issue of the toxic chemical. I've had it several years, used it several times, and it's usually a few feet away. I've never had any issues coughing or sneezing or any irritation. Having said that, I feel like the Thermacell is a great tool to keep the mosquitoes off you when you don't want to use bug spray, which stinks and is gross. So if you have a need for mosquito repellent, like we talked about, hunting, fishing, camping, just hanging out, sitting around, and you want to keep mosquitoes off, I think this is a great tool. It's lightweight, it's easy to replace the fuel canisters and the repellent pads. You can get the nifty holster so you can carry extras with you. Easy to light, easy to store. And did I mention it's only like 20 bucks on Amazon? So, putting all those factors together, should you buy this thing? Absolutely, 5 out of 5. Thank you for watching our Thermacell review video. While you're here, please take the chance to watch several other videos. Comment below if you have a Thermacell or have any more questions. Give us a thumbs up, but most importantly, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. Thanks for watching.